I made a dragon puppet out of stuff I have laying around the house, mostly trash, to give out candy at a church Halloween event. Here's how I did it. It took me several tries to get the structure right, and I finally ended up choosing fencing wire to create a frame that would be sturdy enough to hold up. I covered it with some curtain material that I happened to have that had paint all over it from a previous project. I glued on some cardboard strips. I had to glue and staple to get them to stay and bend, and I cut a hole so I could see through it. The wing is made out of scrim material, which is material that you can see through if it's lit behind it, and you can't if it's lit in front of it. So it made for a good window. I created details for the face out of Model Magic. If you don't use Model Magic and you like to craft or cosplay, you should definitely start. The most important thing about creating a craft that you don't have instructions for is to constantly test and make sure that the way you imagine it working is going to still work as you progress through the project. So I had to keep stopping to make sure that her head was going to move in the right direction. I used a very simple paper mache just for the nose out of watered down Elmer's glue. And I'm glad I did this detail. I did it to partly hide the seams and also to reinforce the structure of the eyes and the nose, just in case I had any kids that got aggressive. But in the end, I had kids that wanted to pet her nose, and this made for a really good sort of texture for them to touch that felt like scales. So I'm glad I took the time to add this particular detail. Painting crafts like this is probably the most important thing, and the mistake that most people I see who are casual crafters make is that when they do something like this, they paint it too perfectly. If you're working with inferior quality materials, short period of time on a budget, what you want to do is you want to create as much texture as you can, because texture confuses the eye and makes it seem more real. So I didn't do a very perfect paint job because I didn't want people to see the construction very clearly. I wanted it to just look interesting. So I layered matte blues on top of the dragon, and then I added highlights of a lighter blue. I added some shiny gold at the end that just kind of made it look almost metallic. And I had a lot of people that got very up close to the dragon who didn't realize that it was made out of cardboard. So I think that worked. Of course, I had to have gold coins filled with chocolate for the treasure. I had to mix. There were a lot of kids that came through this event, so we had to mix some regular candy wrapped in foil for gems. I didn't get nearly as many photos or videos as I wanted, but in the end, there were so many kids that came through and they were all delighted. This was my very first puppet experience, but it definitely won't be my last.